All right, Chris Fortune, TopVelocity.net. We're going to do a cool interview here with Kevin Schultz. Kevin is now a 3X coach. He runs Gorilla Baseball Academy here with me, and he's still training and ultimately waiting for that big jump in ball speed after because he's dealing with a little something we're going to talk about today, and hopefully get out and get a chance to play some pro ball. But he had a good college career, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about his, the results he's had with the 3X Pitching Velocity program, kind of coming into it, what he's experienced from it. So we'll just kind of start with telling him a little bit about yourself, like tell him, growing up, and how hard you feel you were throwing in high school, and then what was it like going into college and stuff like that.
So. Okay. I'm from Michigan. When I started pitching my sophomore year of high school, I was like 82, 83. Took another jump my junior year, went up to about 87, 88, and then my senior year I was sat around 89, and then touched all the way up to 93. And then that summer I actually touched 94, which was the highest that I'd ever thrown before. But in high school, what I did a lot of was intense training with football, and just I played both football and baseball. Football was really what was big at my school, so I really worked hard on that. I had some buddies that played with me, and we all worked hard together. And then baseball was just something I kind of did. And then when I started throwing hard, I started to take it a little more seriously. So I decided not to go the football direction for college, and I wanted to go baseball. I thought I had a brighter future in that. So I ended up going to junior college my freshman year, and got into the really generalized pitching training, a lot of body weight work. We were doing some long distance training. I wasn't really keeping up with my intense football training that I had been doing through high school. So I kind of fell off a little bit. I was topped out about 89 my freshman year, and then my sophomore year again 89, my junior year again 89, and then my senior year again 89. And that was as high as I could ever get. I trained really hard, but I was doing, like I said, the generalized. I was running some distance, I was doing body weight work, I wasn't pushing my loads, and it just really wasn't benefiting me like I thought it should be because of the time that I was actually putting in. I was putting in a lot of training time and seeing very little results. I was long tossing, I was doing mechanics work endlessly. I videoed every pitching video I ever had. I would just go to the bullpen, built a pitching mound in my backyard, trying to learn pitching mechanics and trying to get my mechanics better. And then I came back after my senior year as a student assistant to be the student assistant at my college that I just graduated from, a little NAIA in Oklahoma called University of Science and Arts. And I went back there as the student assistant pitching coach, and I threw some inter squads, and that fall I really struggled. I was down all the way to 82, topping out around 83 max on the mound in inter squad games, and I've never ever done that since my sophomore year when I started pitching. I was throwing that hard, so I really started to worry. So I started to search around the internet, and that's when I found Brent. Started to talk to him a little bit, and ended up coming down for pitching velocity camp. And that's when I started doing the Top Velocity program. And
so you came here at the end after your career's over, and really as far as what was the difference coming into this program after a college career? Did it kind of hit you hard knowing that this is probably more how you trained when you were in high school, when you felt like you were doing so well? Did you feel like it was bringing you back to that, or what was the experience?
Yeah, it was like an eye-opener that my pitching coaches, I remember one of them told me a 90-mile-an-hour body doesn't make a 90-mile-an-hour arm. And then when I look back at that, it just blows me away how he could say that, because the faster I move now down the mound, the harder I throw again. So that really frustrates me, and getting back in here just really opened my eyes that what I was doing back then was helping me, and that's why my velocity fell off, is because I completely shut down that training. But in my mind, I had thought, oh, I must be having my mechanics must be wrong or something, just something I couldn't quite figure out ever.
Yeah, and so like what are the key things with the 3X programs that you feel are really significant in helping increase ball speed or helps you increase ball speed?
Pushing the loads on my lifts as far as the front squats and the cleans go. Getting back to heavy bench press was huge for me. That's driven my velocity to help a lot. And then the athleticism training and the mechanics training. I want to say athleticism training, like our anaerobic conditioning, is we're jumping, we're running, it just has a huge effect on overall athleticism. And then the mechanics drills, not only do they teach you proper mechanics of throwing, but we're always on the gun in here, so you're always trying to throw hard, so you're always trying to maximize your muscle recruitment and just get everything out of your body. And I think that teaches you a lot about how to throw hard and where to throw hard from. And essentially all our drills are driven by the back legs, so that's how they get.
Yeah, so the really interesting thing in Kevin's story is, a lot of guys are going to listen to this and go, well, he was already at 89, because since the 3X pitch and velocity program, what have you been able to do ball speed wise?
I've been up to 91 on the mound, and my step behind throw is now at 94. And
yeah, we've got some video of you online. We're going to get more of that video. But yeah, so he has had that increase. He's gone back to where he said he was in high school. But the curveball, the interesting thing that's come out of all this, and it's what's happening to him on Monday, is, we'll tell the story. So just kind of talk about how before you and Sam decided to go to the doctor, kind of what happened. Like, lead us to that.
All right, so the summer, I went to a pro trial and hit 90 earlier in the year. I'd been pitching well in the men's league up in Baton Rouge, throwing it really pretty well, but my arm was getting stiff, and I was only starting once a week. It was taking me quite a while to recover, and I had some elbow troubles pretty much since my sophomore year of college. I kind of had some elbow issues, and my insurance was coming up underneath my parents, so I was like, all right, this is probably my last chance before my insurance runs out. I'm going to go and get my arm checked out. My girlfriend, Samantha, she pushed me really hard to do it because she always sees the stiffness in my elbow, and she always thought there was something wrong. There's just some swelling and stuff. So I went to the doctor, and he looked at my elbow, and they took an x-ray, and he decided to give me an MRI. Said my arm looked like it was in pretty rough shape, said it had a elasticity in my elbow. He's just able to move a lot. And so I got the MRI, and it came back, and I had a full tear in my UCL. So with major calcification on it, which they concluded that it had been torn for some time, 2 years. So that takes me back to when my velocity fell off in that fall before I got on to Brent's program. So.
Yeah, which is really just mind blowing. I mean, I think that's what I've learned a lot from Kevin is, you hear the story of R.A. Dickey. Sorry, you hear the story of R.A. Dickey signing out of Tennessee at 95 miles an hour, and they turn him down, or they don't offer him the big contract because they MRI him and see that he was born without a UCL. So that becomes a major concern. Well, of course, it turns out to be a great pitcher, but a knuckleball pitcher, so maybe they were right, who knows. But working with Kevin through this and learning this, really shocking news that he's built himself through this program up to 91 on the mound, 94 in a step throw with a completely torn UCL is just mind-blowing. I think it's a great experiment in itself for those to see out there, colleges to see out there, organizations to see out there that if you're training the athletes, they can even excel without the most important joint in the elbow or the most important ligament in the elbow, the UCL, is mind-blowing. It really kind of opens your eyes to really what are we doing with these pitchers when we say we're doing arm care and joint integrity training? Are we really actually doing that? And I think that's just an interesting thing to look at when you look at Kevin's case. Someone who's been able to, without a UCL, get up into a high velocity level, I think is impressive. So we're in a position, I'm excited to see he has surgery on Monday, that after rehab and he gets back to where he is now, what are we going to see? So I wanted to do this interview before Monday, because then we're going to do an interview again. So stay tuned. Once he gets back to that level again, we're going to see what it did for him. Is it going to be a big jump? Is it going to just be back where he was? I have a feeling it's going to be a big jump. I think, to my eyes, maybe a 1 to 2 mile an hour jump on the low end, maybe a 2 to 3, maybe 4 mile an hour jump on the high end. I think could possibly happen here. But it's interesting to see with his story, and it shows the kind of work ethic he has to be able to not only go from 82 up to 91 from where he started when he came into this, but to do that when we find out without a UCL, I think is just incredibly impressive. I mean, so kind of given your experience, what's it feel like pitching without a UCL? Is it anything that you've realized is probably why you do certain things?
I feel like if I don't squeeze the ball as tight as I possibly can, I'll throw it over the backstop. So
he does. I mean, he's a guy like one pitch will literally go 30 feet to the right.
Yeah, and then I'll throw 3 on the corner, and then I'll throw another one to the backstop. And they all feel the same. It's kind of odd. It's been something I've had to overcome. Control issues finally kind of sorted it out this summer, but I can only control when I throw them as hard as I can.
Yeah, and if you watch his forearm when we break them down in video, his forearm stays extremely flexed, and that's because it's the only thing holding that joint together since he doesn't have the ligament helping. So he has to have an extreme amounts of grip strength, which, all this heavy load, even Olympic training, is developing heavy amounts or high amounts of grip strength. So, I mean, what's your grip strength?
162 on my right. It's like 145 on my left.
So it's 20 pounds more on the right, and that's a lot. 160 is a great grip strength. So I've learned a lot too with him when I see young kids coming up with these really poor grip strengths, and he believes it too, that if these kids are going to start throwing mid to upper 80s with 190 pounds of grip strength in one arm, I mean, he knows it. That's a great way to tear your UCL in your throws, right?
Yeah, you're putting yourself at serious risk without having any grip strength and throwing that high velocities.
Yeah, so kind of talk about what key things, so give them some specific things in your training every day that you feel like if you stick to it, it really, really keeps your ball speed where it is, or it's allowed it to really go up. What would be those key things? Mechanically or in the gym or whatever. Give them some specific things.
Mechanically wise, it's just, for me, it's just making sure my arm's late. Not trying to activate my arm too early and really get my power from the lower half. A lot of times, when I try to throw harder and harder, I'll start to get my arm up earlier and earlier, and my front side.
Right, which is hard for him, because think about it, he just told you he's got to grip the ball really hard so it feels like he can stabilize the joint so he doesn't lose it. So he's got to do 2 things. He's got to grip the ball hard, but make sure the arm comes late and loads.
Yeah.
That's almost like an oxymoron. It's like, can you actually do that?
That's where I feel like I have the hardest time, is when I do finally get my arm to relax, is when I will throw it to the backstop, and I just can't force that late arm action just because I have some issues with being late. So, because if I loosen up the arm and let him relax, then I want to let go of the ball. So, but as far as in the gym goes, I just think maintaining my power to weight, and that is what our power to weight is. It's just our body weight, our clean divided by our body weight, and that gives us our power to weight ratio. And my power to weight is around 1.5. I'm about 215 pounds, and I power clean 320. So that's been tremendous help, just in knowing how to use my power and just developing that power. But the clean helps me learn how to use my power, because it's similar to the mound, because you need to burst late, otherwise you're not going to be able to get the weight going. If you accelerate too early, your forces are going to be maximized too early in the lift, and you're not going to be able to throw the weight high. As far as pitching goes, it's the same way. If you peak your forces too early, you're not going to maximize in the front foot, and you're not going to see separation, you're not going to see high ball speed. So.
Yeah, and Kevin's probably the best to ever come in here with the numbers, and I think that's one thing that was baffling us 1.5 plus power to weight ratio, 32-inch vertical jump, 200 and what do you weigh again? 215. Really athletically just built himself to an elite athlete, and he just can go 90-91 at his best. That was what I was, baffling me. So it's really interesting to learn what was going on in the elbow, and to see when we come back for the next interview, as he goes through this process of rehabbing and reconstructing the joint, what really comes out of this. But I think it's cool just to even say that here's someone who's gotten to a 90-91 level of throwing with a completely torn UCL. I guess kind of similar to R.A. Dickey throwing 95 without being born with one. But it just shows you, the importance of the ligament for him is really more going to be on being more easy for him to activate his arm late and allow it to be more loaded and more, I guess, kind of, we would say loose, but I guess that is a good way of putting it, because you're a little bit more relaxed with it because your legs are doing the work. And that ligament should allow him to do that, which to me is going to give him more consistency, more range of motion, and then more ball speed at the end. And then at the same time, see more accuracy. So I think it's going to be really significant that he gets this. And I'm not saying he's proven that you don't need a UCL, but he's proven that you can still perform at a top level with it. It's just there is a lot of benefits to him having the joint stable again with the tendon that they're going to put in his arm now. But that's it. So we're going to come back with an interview with him and see his progress. I'm going to try to get him to kind of maybe video blog his progress up. If anyone is interested in that, post in the comments that you'd like to see him video blogging his process from his Tommy John surgery all the way back. And if you have any questions for him, post them down there. You can also call 985-878-5103, and there's an option to call him directly if you'd like to talk to him directly. But that's it. We have a lot to look forward to with Kevin. See where he goes.